I'm going to take these three colors of heat transfer vinyl and a design from my wife's Etsy shop and press a t-shirt. So let's just jump right in, and I'm going to show you how I set up the file for cutting and then how I press the shirt with three different colors. This is the design I will be putting on the shirt, and I'm in Adobe Illustrator. I'm going to save this as an SVG file and then open it in Silhouette Studio and cut the vinyl with my Silhouette. First thing I'm going to do is make sure everything's ungrouped. And this is going to be a front and back print. So I have the front pocket print here and the back print here. We're just going to select this yellow with the direct selection tool. And then we're going to go to select same fill color. And then we're going to just move that there. And I don't want any of this cutout stuff in the yellow. So I'm just going to actually go through and delete that part. And the reason I'm doing that is because when you're layering vinyl, the vinyl tends to shrink a little bit after you press it. So instead of having to line things up into these voids, I think it might be better to just lay it down on a solid sheet of vinyl here. And that way, if our alignment's a little bit off, it's not going to make that big of a difference, and we won't have to spend forever trying to get things perfectly aligned. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. And then the next thing I'm going to do here is create my box around this. And this just always helps me with the weeding vinyl process, is having these things cut into sections. I'm going to get this and give it a box around it that way. And then I'm going to go ahead and make some lines in between. And these are just basically vinyl weeding lines here and here. We can move this up. So what's going to happen is, as I cut these things out on the cutter, it's going to cut these lines in between the elements of my design. So then I can just weed out the sun, move down, weed out these letters, move down, weed out these flowers, and repeat the same thing on the smaller design. Now, it's important while I'm doing this part that I don't resize anything, because if I resize something, then what's going to happen is you're going to get different size things and it's not going to line up. So we'll select that, select same fill color. Going to copy that over here. Now I can move these to save space on my sheet of vinyl. So I will move this up, and then we're going to make our little box around there again. And the same thing, we're just going to add some cut lines in between elements. And that's really going to be helpful with these little dots, because sometimes when you're trying to peel up a big, huge piece of vinyl, these little tiny elements don't peel up quite right. So if you make a box around them, it's a lot easier to manage what's going on. In fact, what I'm going to do with these bottom ones is maybe make just a small box like this around them instead of a line all the way across. And that way I know exactly what I'm cutting. Then I'll add my cut lines. And then since this text is kind of weird and like all askew, I can go in and make an irregular line around it, but I'm just going to skip that for now. It's not that big of a deal. It's pretty simple text and pretty bold. If this was like maybe fine text, I would think about changing that. And on a design like this, realistically, you can cut each element out, the whole design, and then maybe cobble together something from the pieces that you didn't use. That's just kind of a way to get more mileage out of your vinyl. All right, so we're going to select this one next. Then I'm just making a copy of this while I drag it. So the same thing, I'm going to move this one up because this is just the text and there's no reason to use a ton of vinyl if you don't have to. I'm leaving everything else in place though. You're going to do that, and then we're just going to make one line right across. And now I can save this as an SVG and bring it into Silhouette Studio. All right, so we have it here in Silhouette Studio, and I can just move the ones that I'm not using off to the side for now. And we'll start with this one. And what we need to do is set up our artboard here, or our page setup is what it is. So we're gonna go 12 inches wide. I think we have about 5 feet, so I'll just put a yard. That'll give us plenty of room. So now we have that. I can line this up. And then after this, I'm gonna repeat the process 2 more times. I'll move this yellow one out, then move this pink one in, then move that one out, and move the orange one in to the live area. But we'll spare you that since it's pretty much repetitive. So we'll go to send. I need to turn on my machine, but it'll show up here on the bottom. And then I'm going to go to heat transfer smooth. Then I always add a little bit to the force. I usually bring that up to about 6. And then when I have my machine connected and I hit send, it'll ask if I want to send mirrored, and you always want to send this mirrored. If you don't, then it's going to be mirrored when you try to apply it to a shirt. So for now, we're good. So I'm going to send this to my machine. I'll weed it off camera since that's pretty boring, and then we'll get to printing our shirt front and back. We'll jump in with the front side already printed since the process of the front and back are both exactly the same. But with the back print, it's bigger, so we'll be able to see it a little bit better as we talk about what's going on. You want to make sure that you always give your shirt a pre-press for 5-6 seconds at pressing temperature before you apply any of your transfers, and that's just going to help get any moisture out of the shirt, and it's going to help your transfer adhere better. I'm using Tech Wrap heat transfer vinyl for this design, and I do have an affiliate link in my bio. So if you want to buy any of this vinyl to try yourself, you can click through my link, and if you buy something, I get a few pennies off of your order. This vinyl presses at 320 degrees for between 15 and 20 seconds. When you're layering vinyl, you want to make sure that you don't press it the entire time until the very end. So I press this for about 4 seconds. And then I peeled off the backing sheet, and then I lined up the next color. When you're layering vinyl on the shirt like this, or doing anything really with multiple colors, you want to plan it out as well as you can in advance. I like to take my vinyl before I press anything, make sure everything lines up, and make sure everything looks good. And then figure out which color I want to lay down first, which one I want to lay down second, third, or whatever. And I would definitely recommend trying to give yourself a little bit of wiggle room in your designs if you're designing things yourself, because the vinyl does shrink a little bit when you put it under the heat press and press it. Like with anything else, the more you try this and the more you work with layering vinyl, the more you'll be able to work around and plan for the quirks and idiosyncrasies of pressing multicolors of vinyl on one design. If you have a design that's starting to sell multiples a day, using this method of multiple colors of heat transfer vinyl probably isn't ideal, but this sort of thing is really great for testing out design. You can use your vinyl cutter as a way to basically make a prototype. You come up with a design, you cut it out, you try it in different colors, you make yourself a shirt, you wear it around, you see how it looks, see what people think. And then you can decide from there if you want to use a different kind of transfer, if you want to sell the design, if you don't want to sell the design. And then once you have it all figured out, you can decide from there how you want to move forward. So back to the process. Once everything is pressed down, then I give it a final press for 15 seconds. And that's just to make sure that everything gets its full press time. I'm really happy with the way the finished product came out. And the thing that I like about this type of vinyl is it has a little bit of a stretch to it, and it's pretty light, so you're not worried about having this big heavy design weighing down your shirt. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and we'll see you on the next one.